Hello, world. Welcome to Comic Book News. It's me, your old pal, Dan Shaheen. I'm excited to have a return guest today. He's a three-peater. Is it a four-peater? I don't even know. Ryan's a regular. He's a fan. He watches this thing. He gives me feedback. And we've seen him here before talking about what? Oh, my God, such a varied array of interests from this guy. Let me tell you. He's into making custom bespoke neon signs. He's into designing custom watches. This guy designs custom pancakes, if you can believe that. This is ridiculous. This is where it gets into the ridiculous. And not to mention comics, plenty of cartooning. He did Hunter's Tale. We had him on here last time talking about a poem of his grandfather's that he adapted into comics. This guy's got projects on top of projects. And of course, the one that's closest to my heart, I think the one that brought him in here in the first place was his and my love of pinball. And he loves mechanical stuff and pinball machines and all that kind of entertainment jazz. So we're going to talk to Ryan Claytor today of Elephant Eater Comics. How do you eat an elephant? One piece at a time. That's how you take projects a little bit at a time. And Ryan is one of those guys whose head is all over the place. He's got so many great projects, like stacked on top of projects. This guy had to take a break from all his projects for a little project to cleanse the project palette. So now he can get on to the bigger project. It's crazy talk. So he's a creative dynamo. He's an organized guy. He's a teacher. He's got a lot to say, and he's going to give us a live demo here on the air of his latest. I don't want to call it like his passion, like this is his life's work, but it's his latest interest, the thing that piqued his interest enough to start up another Kickstarter. So we're going to look at mirror drawings, and we're going to look at how you do a mirror drawing. And we're going to talk with Ryan. Where are we going to do it? Not here, though. Where do we do it? Oh, man, somewhere new. We got a live demo today. So let's do a TED Talk. And now let's bring in your guest and mine, Ryan Claytor, Elephant Eater. What's going on, buddy?
Dan Shaheen. So good to be here, man. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, man, happy to see you. Always happy to see you, buddy.
This is fantastic. I am equal parts excited and fearful about how this will turn out. But, man, I've got so many things set up and really anxious to show people how this is done. And I hope that more people do this, because this has been a really restorative practice for me.
Well, wait a minute. What is this thing, dude? Tell us what.
Yeah. So these odd little things that I've been working on are called mirror drawings. Maybe I should. Do you have the Kickstarter page pulled up?
You know what? I'm pulling it up right now.
Awesome. So listeners can find it at mirrordrawings.com. And the way this whole thing came about was, you and I spoke at the beginning of this year when I came out with A Hunter's Tale, which was my grandfather's poem that I turned into comic book form, which you just mentioned. And after the success of that project, I was fulfilling orders for months afterward. And when that was complete, I was just kind of wiping my creative brow for a while and trying to figure out ways to really get my creative hand moving again. And to make a long story short, I happened across my buddy, Merrick Bennett, who's a fellow cartoonist who does the Civil War Diary of Freeman Colby. If you haven't checked that out, Dan, please do. I'll get more information afterward. But anyhow, these drawings were just sort of a way to get my hand moving. I saw him do one and I thought, oh, I'll try my hand at that. And so I did, and I really enjoyed it. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll do another one. And I did another and another. And so my patrons who were seeing all this take place were like, oh, this is really interesting. It was getting some good feedback. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll share it with my email list. And again, it got good feedback, and people started asking me like, this is cool. When's the book coming out? And like, that was the furthest thing from my mind when I started doing these. So I kept doing them just because they were relaxing for me. And like I said, got my hand moving again. And they're turned into things like you see on your screen right here. Some are more figurative. Some are a little more abstract. They're about half and half throughout the book. And it's all black and white. This is going to be a really deluxe hardcover book. And it's interactive because I'm encouraging people to color these illustrations. So when you get this book, if you feel compelled, you can color in it, or just sort of leaf through the book and allow these odd little illustrations to wash over you however you see fit. So there's a bunch of deluxe features on this book, especially after smashing through 10 stretch goals on this campaign, Dan. So not only did we fund on the first day, but in the first week, less than a week, we got through 10 stretch goals, which now include things like 66% longer book. It was going to be 48 pages. Now it's 80 pages long. We've also got the built-in ribbon bookmark on this hardcover book, upgraded paper stock, a foil stamped cover now. We're making this the book of my dreams. I can't even believe it's happening. So, and all that is happening for the same price of entry.
Nice.
It's $30 out the door. That's shipping included for a physical book to you in your hands in the United States. And there's no like hidden shipping fees on the end. Like, I'm including that in there so you don't even have to think about it. It's like a one-stop shop. So anyway, all that to say, there's no better time to hop into this campaign because this book has grown in size and fanciness since we started.
Okay, so this is Kickstarter.com/projects Ryan Claytor mirror drawings. Just look up Ryan Claytor mirror drawings. It's gonna be the first Google thing that you find for sure.
I tell you what, we can make it even easier. Mirrordrawings.com. Mirrordrawings.com will get you right there. Don't even have to remember my name.
We love it. Let me test that right now on the spot.
Make it happen.
Mirror
I'll take it back where you are now.
Let's hope I spelled that right and we don't get some wacky site. Okay, yeah, great.
There it is.
Fantastic. Mirrordrawings.com. Okay, Ryan, you're a master of marketing. You're a master. You're growing in each one of these Kickstarters. And if I know you the way I think I know you, maybe I don't. You learn something on this project that you're going to bring to future projects. Is this your first hardcover book? Is this your first ribbon? Okay, the ribbon, by the way, the mark of class as far as I'm concerned.
Dan, I've wanted to do a hardcover book for a long time, and you're right. This is my first hardcover book, and
I knew it. I knew it.
Process junkie, format junkie. I love when people will go the extra mile with formatting their work after it's done, not just like slap it on some pages, but really consider the entire project. And so I feel so fortunate that enough people are jumping on here to allow that to happen. And with all that said, the margins on this project for me are still pretty thin. Even though there's a healthy amount of buy-in, I'm basically taking each of those margins when additional people come on and putting more back into the book. So all that to say, I'm not going to be overprinting this thing by very much. Basically, the lion's share of what I'm producing is going to fulfilling the Kickstarter orders. So that means don't wait, because there's not going to be many left after the fact. But I'm so thankful that we're able to produce this big, beautiful hardcover book with a great printer. I'm using Mixum Printing, who knows their way around a hardcover book. They did How to Think When You Draw by the Etherington brothers, and they've printed a ton of books. I mean, if you know their Kickstarters, they're the highest selling Kickstarter art books around, period.
I didn't know them, but that's great.
They've done Pet Human. They've been on a bunch of high profile projects. So when I wanted to do an art book, I was looking them up, and not only do they know about hardback printing, but they're also very environmentally and ethically minded, ethically sourcing their papers. And that really spoke to me because one of the things I'm also doing with this project is for every backer on the campaign, I've partnered with a reforestation project called One Tree Planted. And for every backer, we're going to plant a tree, pure and simple. So
Nice.
That's going to happen after the campaign ends because it's fully funded now. So there's no question about whether this is going to happen. It's going to happen. And I'm very proud of that partnership. And at the same time, a little ashamed that it's taken me this long to do something like this. So I want to give some quick props out to fellow indie comics folks, Oneshi Press. It's Lindsay and JL run that. They're a husband-wife couple. And they are the ones who I saw do this first, just a little earlier this year, actually. And when I saw that, I immediately contacted them and said, hey, this is incredible. Would you mind if I did this too? Because I didn't want to, ape their idea. And but anyway, they had their hearts and their minds in the right place and wrote back to me immediately and said, yes, please. We want everybody to do this. And so I cannot imagine doing a project moving into a future without doing this. So
okay. I'm also a little ashamed that you didn't think of it yourself, but we're going to overlook that. We're going to transcend that. And you're going to show us, you're going to give us a live drawing. And because you're all such a good sport, I'm going to also be adding my own mere action to the show a little bit. We'll be having some fun.
This will not be disorienting at all.
Not at all. This is my Danger Room virtual studio. I wrote this this little feature just for you guys.
Wow, that's incredible. I love it.
So we'll have a little bit of visual fun in the background with some mirroring.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to draw with that on the screen. I'm just
yes.
I'm going to be mesmerized for the next 45 minutes.
All right, you're going to be hypnotized, as are the rest of our audience. And now I've lost everything. I don't know where you are anymore. Okay, here we go. So Ryan, why don't we proceed? Do you want me to share your own store-bought knockoff version of the $1 Million Comic Cam? Are we going to bring that?
Yeah, let's bring up the Claytorian dollar comics cam. Let's make it happen.
Let's see how this thing looks. Okay, amazing.
We're a little sideways. What can we do here? How do we?
We're going to this. We're going this mode.
Not gonna.
I thought you did a landscape last time, but it's not really. It doesn't really matter. There's plenty of room. We're in breathtakingly 720p right now, live on the internet.
Well, we got to get that right side up, right? Let's see. Why would that not be right side up, Dan?
While you're working on that, folks, I'm gonna provide more visual interest over here. Just kidding.
Oh man, let's see. There's got to be a setting, right? Display, brightness, dark theme, night mode.
I'm bringing some of my own settings over here. Wait a minute. Let's see what else we can do over here.
Auto rotate screen. Yes, that's something I want to have happen. Okay. So let's get back into the studio. See if this will. Yes, I pressed the right button, Dan. That so infrequently happens.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and I've got the right button going on over here. So we've got our pal Alan Moore, who's going to watch you in harsh judgment.
No pressure.
Mirror Universe Alan Moore.
Okay, excellent. So
the idea here is, they'll give us in a nutshell, like how many degrees of reflection are we talking? Like what's the overall concept here that you're trying to do?
So essentially, I'm just doing these in a corner of my sketchbook, and then I'll duplicate these and mirror them 4 times to create a new drawing. And that's it. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to do some sort of thing. I don't know what. Maybe it'll be abstract. Maybe it'll have some figurative elements in here. I'm not sure yet. But these are some of the drawings that I've done so far. Just a little sneak preview for the Dan Shaheen audience.
Oh, man.
And
Cool.
I wanted to show everybody a little cheat that I will do sometimes. Look at this. Look at this. This is the secret, Dan. So I was doing these things completely free-handed from the start. And then my OCD took over because I started noticing these mirrored versions, like not being quite as uniform as I would hope them to be. And so I thought, well, what if I just printed out a little template that would allow me to see like where the quarter marks are, where the eighth marks are, where the 16th marks are. And then if I wanted to line something up moving outward, I've got some, concentric circles coming out here. So what I'll do occasionally is I'll just toss this underneath my sketchbook page here. And oh my gosh, you know what? Check this out, Dan Shaheen. Light. Is that better?
Oh, that's so much better.
Okay, fantastic. So you can kind of see a little bit through there. That's all I need, just a little bit of visibility before I start having at it. So I don't know, Dan Shaheen, what's on your mind right now? Is there any motif or special interest that I should be incorporating into this drawing?
Well, I mean, we could maybe do some thematic show stuff like pigs or money. $1 Million Comics Cam, any kind of pigs and money go together really well.
All right, let's see, pigs and money. Let's see what we can do here. Pigs and money. All right.
We'll switch over.
So, yeah, I typically approach these in a very Bob Ross manner where I'm really not doing a whole lot of thinking. I'm just sort of painting these happy trees or happy squiggles or whatever's going on. And occasionally I'll think about a theme that I want to do, but other times I'm just sort of letting my mind wander. Like I said, this was really sort of a restorative activity for me. I feel like I think a lot throughout the day, and sometimes I have done enough thinking, and when it's that time, I guess it's mirror drawing time. So just kind of making some circles, making some squiggles, seeing what comes out, and trying not to be too judgmental about whatever does come out, because I feel like I probably do that, and maybe we all do that a little too much in our lives. So I don't know, trying to not. So Dan Shaheen wants a pig. Let's do a pig. So I've got myself these circles right here, and I'm worried about how that pig's going to connect. So I'm going to try to make a little bit of an area to receive the bottom of the pig here. Again, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just making some marks. And what does a pig look like? It's got a snout, right? Let's give it a little snouty. And some big nostrils in there. And
it seems there's something about after using your head all day, like just wanting to use your hands for something. I don't know. I mean, maybe drawing's a little different because you're still using your head, I suppose. But I feel like when you do something physical, it engages a whole other set of neurons in your brain and stuff that maybe helps clear out the cloudy parts, the other parts. Like me, I like to juggle, right? So I'll if I'm programming all day, which I do for a living, if I'm in front of the computer and I just don't want to think about that stuff anymore, I just start using my hands and moving my body around. And suddenly, like, it just clears up my whole brain. So this seems like one of those kind of.
I love your juggling videos. I can just be so transported by them, and I don't know. It looks like you've been doing that for a long time. You're very proficient. It's very impressive.
Oh, thanks. Now, well, I picked up juggling clubs in the pandemic, but I've been juggling my whole life, a little bit, and it was a savior for me in more ways than one. Like physically, when I ran into some like health problems from just sitting around too much, this was my way out.
I remember you talking about that really was a point of therapy for you, really. And I didn't realize it was from, basically sitting, but I've noticed that in my own work, in my own body in recent times, just especially having so many meetings and classes and things happening on Zoom. It's it can really take a toll. And so I've noticed that too. Maybe I need to start juggling.
Dude, I fully recommend it. It has done a lot of things for my posture and as well as for my just conditioning. It's tough to juggle try juggling for 10 minutes straight. You're going to see it's not all fun and games.
Well, it's pretty mesmerizing. Whenever I catch your live streams, I feel like, ooh, I made it. I saw it. It's
I haven't done one for a while. I got to get back in there, but I'm trying, I'm moving into 4-ball juggling now.
Oh, wow.
Which is something I wanted to do my whole life. And now I feel ready for it, but it's I can't subject the people to me watching me practice. So many things.
I tried to send you a juggling throwdown video on Facebook the other day, and
I didn't see that.
It's been a little while at this point, but basically a shout out to you and my inability to juggle. I can juggle 3 balls in a very spotty way. But I know that adding that 4th is insanity. So how is that going for you?
Better than I thought, but it's frustrating when you're good at something. It would be it's I remember when I was a kid, my brother, he's a guitar teacher, has a degree in music, and he is he's really just a very proficient guitar player, classical training and jazz, as well as anything you want to play. And when I was a kid, he would just I'm going to learn the trumpet. And he would just go to square one and just be on the trumpet. He's like, I'm going to do the dulcimer. And it's like a trumpet. It doesn't have much to do with a guitar, right? And he would take the time to learn those things. And that was a big inspiration to me.
I never understand folks who have that innate knack for musicianship or even languages. I feel like there's something related there from music and language that uses a part of the brain that is not well developed for me. I've tried both and I've been really mediocre at both, but
I disagree, man. I disagree. It's what those people have share in common, I think, is you have it, but you have to find you have to want a thing enough. You have to truly be plugged into a thing enough in order to want to practice. So you practice more, you end up practicing more than the time you put aside to practice. Mm-hmm. And that's the only way, in my experience, that's the only way I've ever gotten good at anything, is I had to really love it. And I had to do it every day and do a lot of it. So a couple years ago, I was Photoshop. I don't know how to use Photoshop. So I'm all right, thumbnails. That's going to be my thing. I'm just going to be doing thumbnails out the yin yang for YouTube. And same thing with Blender. I've been learning 3D art, and which has been mind-blowingly amazing and fun to do.
I've been marveling at all the different Blender stuff you've been doing too. It's been really fun to see what you put together for the show. I've never seen such a passionate showman putting together so many things for their internet show. It's really incredible. So just like you said, you got to love it to the point where you do it so much. You're doing it past the point of time you set aside for it. I feel that way with drawing when I get into it, that I'll start illustrating something and then, I'll set aside a particular amount of time, and sometimes I'll even have to set an alarm for myself to stop and either get up and walk around or, go pick up my kid or whatever needs to happen,
Totally. Oh my gosh. I could fritter away days on silly things. But yeah, you know what this show lacks in content sometimes, or an agreeable host. I try to make up for with just like this kind of garbage. So like, this is my true training in like broadcast television. So it's like, just put some shiny stuff on the air. That's what I bothers me most about like YouTube. A lot of YouTube streams that I watch is that they are so. It's like you might as well be listening to talk radio most of the time. So I really appreciate a guy like you coming in here and be willing to draw. We had Don Simpson in 2 weeks ago doing some live drawing. You like Don? Are you a fan of like Megaton Man or any of that stuff?
I honestly haven't read Megaton Man.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm not like, I won't want to say I'm the biggest, like I'm a big fan of his art style and everything, but I wasn't. Megaton Man was weird because it was one of those ones that it reminds you of the Tick right away when you see it. And I believe it's probably a precursor to the Tick, but it's straight up satire. So there's not a lot of like jokes landing. It's more like kind of subtle jokes of like you get what they're satirizing. Mm-hmm. So that was one that always one that I never dipped into enough. And I think now that it's getting reprinted and stuff, I'm going to go back and check it out. Don is a fascinating guy too. He's got a PhD in art history.
Huh? And, is that right? My wife's got a PhD in art history. I wish I would have had some time to look at that one, because I know you mentioned he was doing some live drawing as well, but I've just been so gosh darn busy with this Kickstarter that's going right now, and my day job at the university has had a number of things I've needed to keep up with too. So that's on my list to go watch the Don Simpson interview you did a couple weeks back.
Well, that's the beauty of YouTube too. It's there forever, man. And like I was really surprised we got like close to 1,000 views on it pretty quickly.
Oh, that's killer.
And gained a lot of subscribers from it. Now, of course, the next week I interviewed, I don't know if you saw last week, we talked with Ethan Van Sciver again. In here.
Oh, really? Is that the third time for him?
That's his third time back. And it was a much more civil. It was a way more civil conversation. It was.
I'm going to have to start planning my 4-peat with you, Dan, so I'm not upstaged.
I know you guys are going to be. You'll be like Saturday Night Live in the 5 Timers Club. You'll always be the Tom Hanks, though. Come on, Ryan. You've done so much. I mean, dude, and our history goes way back to when you did my bookmark for me. 2 bookmarks for me, I believe. No, you did comicbookshelf.com. Yeah, that's the one you did.
Yeah, I still love that robot bookmark. That's going to be in my art book coming up here. That's the next project I'm going to work on after mirror drawings, and I can't wait to share that with more people.
It's going to be like, all about robots?
No. So my next art book that I have planned is going to be sort of a celebration of 20 years of Elephant Eater comics. So like me making comics and illustrations, but it's also going to be a bunch of unpublished work, like everything from like neon signs and watch designs that have never seen print in a book before, but also like going way back to my grad school days when I was doing these like weird illustrated computer games using antiquated technology like Director and Flash. And so it's going to include a bunch of stuff that people haven't seen, including the Dan Shaheen robot bookmark for comicbookshelf.com.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the Dan Shaheen shipment arrived with a few of those bookmarks. So when that project comes out, I think I'm going to be slipping a few of those in as a surprise to folks who buy that book.
Nice. Great.
Yeah. I'm so excited to share that with more people.
Cool, man. That was one of my favorite projects came together, and it was like that was the first time I worked with an artist who are all flakes to some degree. And I was like, this guy's less flaky than me. So it was that was amazing. And you did such great work, and you showed me how a pro does, how a professional artist like does work. Couple comps, set it up, no fuss, no muss, quick turnaround time, all on spec. Worked with the printer, did everything. Saved me time and money overall.
You got to stop, Dan. I'm not going to be able to fit out of this room. You got my head growing over here. You're too good to me, man.
This is the way, Ryan. You're one of those few people, very few people, who has the complete set of skills to produce a book, but also to produce all of the content, compelling content for a book. So, like, I don't know if the Justice Department might have to get involved for vertical monopolies. I'm really a little bit worried. But this could be actionable, Ryan.
Oh man,
because you do so much, like, to own all those bits of it, though, in this moment in time, where, because anybody could have developed those, not anybody, somebody could have developed those skills working for somebody else over the years, but it wasn't until now that you have the means to crowdfund it, completely produce it remotely, come up with all the pre-production, post-production, and then cultivate that audience for your next project that comes along, right?
You know, I talk to my students about this all the time, and I probably sound like an ancient man when I say this stuff, but I'm like, when I started doing comics, you know, in the early aughts, I was physically walking my books around to any comic book store I could get to in hopes that they might carry it on consignment, and then maybe one day I would see a dollar or two from these books. And if you told me that it was a possibility to earn 4 figures from my first comic book, which is what my students are doing now, you know, I coach them through Kickstarter campaigns, and I've had a couple of them be very successful. You know, I don't require a Kickstarter campaign for my students because it's a lot. It's a lot to take on. But if they are interested, I coach them through an entire Kickstarter campaign from start to finish over the course of a semester. And the ones who have taken me up on it have all been successful. Angela Rodriguez did this incredible comic about her sister's struggles with anxiety. And she got over $1,000 for her very first comic book. And then this year before that, Antoinette Davis took me up on my offer, and she raised over $2,500 for her Filipino vampire story. And again, if you told me I could make 4 figures off my first comic book when I first started, I would have thought you were nuts. And Kickstarter is just such an invaluable resource for creators at whatever point in your career that you're at. And it's something that you can use to scale as you grow as well. So anyway,
I mean, I've heard there have been 6-year-old kids who've done pretty well on Kickstarter. Ryan,
you've helped make that 6-year-old kid successful too. I was just talking with my wife and saying, oh, you know, I've got this demo I'm doing on Comic Book News today. And she said, I told her it's one of the guys that Owen chat with. He talked with 2 different people. And she's like, oh, which one was it? Was it the really gregarious one? I'm like, yeah, that's him.
Nice. Well, I appreciate it. It's fun to see. And it honestly, we are in the moment. It's crazy transitional. No, the artist, the single person, has never had the ability before in human history, when you think about it, to finance, distribute, produce, print at the same level. Like, the books coming out from Kickstarter look as good as anything, or better sometimes, than those coming out from any other publisher, because they're using the same printers and the same techniques and the same everything. So it's only the content itself, and creators are waking up to this fact that they're like, if I can take control of my own destiny, creative destiny, this way, I don't need to sell out. And I don't even need to hit the mega heights and get millions of people to make a living off of my art. That's the amazing thing, is that the scale doesn't need to be, the economies of scale in the past were based upon the fact that you had to pay multiple middlemen. You had to pay the printer, you had to pay the distributor, the retailer had to get a cut of that. So, you had to, your margin was razor thin. So you had to publish thousands of things to make anything viable. But now it's just not the case anymore. With print on demand, you could print one, right? And it's your time and your sweat equity that's the most important thing. It's just like, it's unprecedented. So, and then the explosion that we see coming out of people doing this stuff. Everybody's got a Kickstarter, got a Patreon, they're embracing these tools, and it works. There's people out there that I support on Patreon. I don't support a lot of comics people on Patreon anymore. I have, but I try to support them. They're more easily supportable because I can buy their books, I can buy their work, promote it on the air, and talk about it. Nowadays, I subscribe to a lot of guys that teach me things, that have tutorials online for things.
Yeah, you were telling me about some Blender guys on Patreon, right?
Dude, there's a million ways to make money with Blender. And there's Patreon guys that I'll spend the $5 a month, right, to support them. And I go I'm learning more from this guy's once a month Patreon posts than I've learned from anybody else in my life. They're so good.
That's incredible.
A couple guys like Ian Hubert, an amazing 3D artist. A lot of people know about him. In the Blender world or 3D world, you know about him. But there's other guys, these guys, Default Cube, guys who just they make their whole living just pumping out little tutorials to teach you obscure techniques in Blender, but there's real value. And I wouldn't pay for it if there wasn't a lot of value in it. If I didn't feel like I was ripping them off, if I didn't feel like I was getting the upper end of that value equation, I'm not on board. Guys have made it really reasonable. Also, Gumroad. Have you ever used Gumroad?
I've purchased a few things from Gumroad, but I've not used Gumroad as a creator yet.
Okay, I've got my first thing up on Gumroad that I made myself, and it's totally free, or pay $1 if you want, right? And it's for sometimes on my $1 million mailbox show, I've got 3D money that falls in front of and behind me.
Oh yeah.
So that's 2 layers of, it's some tricks I learned how to do it in Blender. So I put those up there for free. Maybe I'm going to find the link and maybe I'll link to it here. Not many people know about it, but if you want to check it out, if you're into streaming or using OBS, you can use it even in your Zoom calls and stuff. That could be fun.
I'll have to use that one in my next faculty meeting.
Here we go. Let me. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I annoy so many people with my lack of professionalism, and you can too, folks. You can too.
Yeah, I love it.
Let me share. I'm going to share it real quick because why not? We got a little bit of time. Let me see. Chrome tab. Free falling money. Right? How can you, what's better than that? Hang on just for a second. Falling money all around you for free. Go to hijinks, hijinx.gumroad.com. You can, it's 2 files. You can download them for free. You can kick me $1 if you really want to. You don't have to, but I would appreciate it.
For all your upcoming faculty meetings.
Yeah. And, another way to support us here, is click like on this video if you like it. Click subscribe. You can click that little bell thing. There's a little bell. Click it for notifications. That's what a rookie does. Okay, a rookie just clicks the bell. What a pro YouTube watcher does is they click on the bell and they get the little menu and they go, give me all the notifications. Tell me every time Dan Shaheen is going live with any kind of whim bug up his ass. I'm really trying to stretch what this channel is all about. I love comics. I always will. I'm always going to talk a lot about comics. but there's too much stuff to talk about. It's too fun to have a YouTube channel, even with like, what have I got? 2,600 something subscribers. I find that is a miracle. That is a miracle of the modern age that I cannot take for granted. So I really appreciate everybody out there who supports this channel just by watching. That's honestly all you have to do. But if you want to, you can click like, subscribe. There's even a join button down there. You can kick me a couple bucks every month if you care. If you want to be in the closing credits at the end, you can get in there. If you want to be a producer of the show and produce an entire episode, Ryan's an honorary producer. He calls me up. He pitches me a show idea. It's like, whenever you want, Ryan, you're in. The other way you can support us here is the sending your work or the work of your friends or just comics that you want to see me talk about, for goodness sakes, to the $1 Million Mailbox. Okay, P.O. Box 1163, Arcata, California 95518. It's gonna be pretty amazing. All right. So do that, send them in, me and Larry, and who knows who else, man. We're getting more and more fun guest hosts like we had last week with EVS. Now, I know a lot of people out there don't like EVS. And I'm one of them in some ways. Like, I don't like a lot of things he says. But I do think he's a part of the industry right now. He's an interesting guy to talk to. He's a very good broadcaster, and it was a fun show to watch. So I suggest you watch it and judge for yourself. There's a little bit of like insult trading going back and forth, kind of like veiled insults under it. So if you like that kind of passive aggressive,
if you like passive aggression, that's the show for you.
And who doesn't? I'm passionate about passive aggression.
Wouldn't that be passion aggression at that point?
So Ryan, when you do these things, when you do these drawings, is all your finishing going to be done in Photoshop, right? You're going to show us that part too.
Yes, indeed. In fact, I think I'm going to be wrapping this up here pretty soon. And once I do, I'm going to scan this thing into Photoshop and then finish it off there. So we'll have a nice, clean image when we're done. This is going to be the official Comic Book News with Dan Shaheen mirror drawing. You're going to have your own mirror drawing, Dan Shaheen.
I can't wait. That's so awesome.
I expect this to be on every show moving forward. No.
Well, we'll get it in there. I'm nothing if not frugal with my show visual elements. You'll see a lot of stuff. I'm barfing up all kinds of stuff on this show already, like in the background here that I've used a million times. I love it. Wait, well, let me see if I have mirror. Did I get the mirror? I know I did. In a minute. Pictures, thumbnails. Did I put it under Ryan? Yeah, no, I didn't. Oh, well. I was going to see if you had noticed I did a mirror piggy logo on our thumbnail.
I saw that on the thumbnail. That was great.
So I tried.
Little biaxial pig action there. That was great.
Yeah, I gave myself like 10 seconds to try and emulate this thing. And I think I figured out a trick. And so I'm interested to see some of these other tricks for finishing. And maybe I'll try drawing one of these mirror drawings.
You should, man. They're so relaxing and meditative, and and surprising. Like, whenever I make these things, it doesn't really matter what's coming out. But then when I go ahead and mirror the thing and see what it's going to look like in the end, I'm frequently surprised at what happens. I'll have some sort of concept or notion that I think it's going to look like, but man, it's always a treat to see.
Yeah. Do you, what's the, are you including that circular guide that you showed us? Is that a part of the fun that you get as the actor?
That is something that's helping me right now with this one. Like, I'm able to line up these axes in a little more accurate way. And if I didn't have that, I think they'd look like they were squinched a little closer together rather than being so uniform like this. We'll see it when it tiles together. I think it'll work out all right.
Because if you don't do that, do you have to cheat it more when you get to the Photoshop phase or something? Are there things you can do?
Not necessarily. It just sort of comes out not as clean as I'd like it to, but I do fudge things around in Photoshop a little bit once I get there. Especially near the edges, I'll be showing you guys
That's what I was going to say.
There's a straight edge that I want to like turn out circular. Occasionally it'll dip down a little bit or dip up a little bit, and I can just sort of smooth that out, straighten that out in Photoshop. I have no qualms about moving things around once it's in the computer. But
and things like the lettering there too, like will you like unmirror that part in the
exactly.
Yeah, cool.
And if you notice what happened here with that lettering portion, you're exactly right. I'm going to have to unmirror that, but I made it within a circle so that I could select it really easily and then flop it over instead of having it butting right up against some other element. So trying to make my life a little easier there.
Love it. Makes sense.
All right. What do you say we bring this thing in? Do we need any more dots? Are there any more specialty items we need to put in here? I don't know. What else do we need? I think we're almost set.
Man, that's looking good to me. I think let's go to digital post, man.
All right. Let's make it happen. Let's make this happen. Okay, so I've got a
looks a little, I'm going to say a little bit Matt Groening-ish, a little bit maybe Jim Woodring-ish.
I would not take offense at either of those.
Not, definitely not.
All right, I am going to hop into Photoshop and scan this thing in. Am I still sharing my screen with you, Dan?
Yep. Well, no, you're sharing your phone, and I have your screen here ready to go whenever you're ready.
Okay, fantastic. So I am going to scan this in. Skibbly D.
Just wait till you're ready. I have a little fun with Alf going on here. Alpha Centauri.
That is fantastic. All right, here we go, Dan. Let me get this
let's bring
drawing board out of my way so I can access the keyboard.
Wait a minute. How do I do this? Wait, like this, and we add to stream. There we go.
Okay, so I just scanned this thing in. It's of reasonable resolution so that I can print it out if I want to when it's done. And the first thing you see is it's sort of cocked. It's not level. So I'm going to take ruler tool that's hidden inside the eyedropper tool. And this is something that is super simple, but I find a surprising number of people that do not know about this tool. If you just
I'm learning about it right now.
Here we go. So if you just run this along a straight edge, you can go up to image rotation, arbitrary. And the arbitrary amount knows exactly how much it needs to be rotated and which direction it needs to be rotated. So all you need to do is press OK, bada bing. It's corrected. So now I'm going to crop this thing because we don't need all this extraneous information. Try to get it.
That tip right there is gold, Ryan. It is one of the reasons I love watching tutorials, because often I'll know how to do the thing, but there's always one little thing that you learn in those tutorials that like somebody knows how to do that you never saw before. And you just gave me that moment in this video.
That was worth the price of admission today, at least.
I think so, for me.
So right now I have this, I should probably zoom in and show you.
Zoom in a little bit, please.
In grayscale. So you see all these varying levels of gray for the black. Likewise, it's picking up the texture of the page, even a little bit of that template that I left behind there. But I'm going to threshold out all the gray color so that this is only black and white. So up in image adjustments, threshold, go up to threshold, and you can control how much black or how much white is left behind. So I'm going to toss that in the middle somewhere and say, okay. And now if we zoom in here, we can see, okay, every pixel is truly either black or white. So when you print this thing out, it's going to look really nice and crisp, no fuzzy edges or anything. Now here's a little mistake I made. So I'm just going to grab my pencil tool and clean this up, paint a little bit of white. And occasionally I'll go in and fix little things like this. It really doesn't matter. It's so small, we're not going to see it. But there's that unsightly template peeking out of there. Let's get rid of that, Dan Shaheen.
Okay.
And then here's some of those straight edges I was telling you about. So I'll just kind of clean those up a little bit to make sure they are straight as they go over. You see that little dip there. After doing this many, many times, I understand that that's going to create a void in my OCD equilibrium. So I'm gonna equalize.
It's gonna mirror itself into like an unsightly artifact that you
exactly. Yeah. So I kind of cruise through the edge here, especially, and try to clean things up.
Yeah. Yes.
And maybe I'll even add a little dot right on the edge that would be hard to do otherwise. That kind of masks the mirrorness of what's going on.
Yes.
Let's see what else is happening here. Oh, I think that's a little bump I wanted in there. So I'm going to clean that up a skosh. Maybe a little bit of this stuff.
And I know the reason you're doing this, right? Just to say, is like because you draw something in pencil or pen or whatever, it's got all the smudges. It's not black and white. It's not binary at all when you first scanned it. So doing that threshold thing brought you down to black and white. So now like the black is the ink that needs to go on the page that is white, and nothing in between.
That's exactly right. And so when you print this thing, if it were grayscale, it would have all sorts of fuzzy little edges on the outsides, but that's not what you want for, your nice clean line art. So I'll try to clean that up as best I can before going to print, and we'll see what it looks like here in just a minute. These are looking reasonable. This side seemed to have fared a lot better, so not as much cleanup here. And I've just
in the old days,
Oh, no, what was that?
I know. I was going to say maybe in the old. I'm trying to think how this like in the old days,
with the ruby lith and the X-Acto knives.
or maybe like blue pencil, how that would play in. Like you'd have non-reproducible elements on your physical page.
Yep.
You could use as a guide, but then like it was all about your ink being exactly what's going to go onto the.
And I'll still use non-reproducible blue pencil to this day, and basically it just scans as less than 50% gray. So when I do that threshold trick I showed you, it just obliterates it, so you don't have to worry about erasing or anything else. But now I feel like I've got this thing pretty. Oh boy, this is giving me fits. Let me clean this up here.
Look at this. Oh, I was gonna say, Ryan.
Yeah. Oh mercy. So uniform. I can't stand this. Let's fix this. Sorry, Dan, to get your hopes up. I thought we were about to mirror, and then I saw some unsightliness. Okay. All right.
That's all right.
I think I've quelled my OCD. Let's get going then. So
I like it's got an implied gambling motif too.
Yeah.
We like that.
There's a really cool thing with the newer versions of Photoshop where if you duplicate something, so now I have two layers of the same thing, then I'm going to, let's see, edit, transform, flip it horizontally. Watch what happens when I move this thing. It brings up some guidelines. And when the edge of my layer is right on the edge of my file, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a vertical pink line right on the edge there, which tells me this is exactly where this needs to be dropped. So I'm going to drop it. There it goes. And then I can use my crop tool to crop it to that new location.
Dude, you're uncropping. I didn't even realize you could uncrop.
Yeah. So here's the first part, and
without expanding the image, the size of your image, I would have been going into edit, image size, repositioning it. Like, what a pain.
Yeah, it's super handy. So
I like
I've
it.
got a couple different layers you might be able to see over to the right here. I do not
Yes.
want 2 layers. I want this to be a single layer. So I'm just going to merge it down and then duplicate it again. This
Yeah.
time I'm going to flip it vertically, edit,
Sure.
transform, flip vertical. And once again, I'm going to move that upward until I see that pink line, boink, right on the edge, and that's where I'll drop it. Then I can use that crop trick once again to move it up, and it'll just hug right to the edge. There we go. Now, a couple things I need to do here. We've got Dan Shaheen over here. We've got Ryan Claytor over here. We've got comic book news with Dan Shaheen. Oh boy. So I messed up your name, Dan, and I need to fix that. I didn't have enough room.
You did that on purpose, huh?
No, I know how to spell your name. I know how to spell it. So let's fix that real quick, like before we do anything else. I am going to merge those layers, pull this out of here, paste it back down, and then transform this thing.
Uh-huh.
So I can give myself a little bit more room. We got to have that in there. You can't disrespect the Shaheen.
No way.
So here we go.
Oh, by the way, I got a suggestion out there from Peerless Loser, longtime watcher. Get Joe Sacco on. I've been in touch with him.
Huh.
He just doesn't like, he's willing to think about it, but I haven't pushed hard because I want something really cool to talk about him with. And he's just not into it usually. So I haven't pushed.
That's a reportage cartoonist who would have no shortage of interesting things to talk about.
I know. Dude, not just politics, but like rock and roll. Have you seen his Rolling Stone?
No, I saw his Notes from a Defeatist, which where he followed a band around as they were on tour. That's about as close as I've got to his rock and roll stuff. Is there more than that?
That's the stuff I'm thinking of, I guess.
Okay.
Did you read his latest book though, Paying the Land, that just came out like last year?
No, I haven't yet.
Nobody's read it. It just kind of came out and disappeared. It was a beautiful book. He worked for years on it. He had a conversation with Art Spiegelman on YouTube about it. That was pretty cool.
Wow. Very cool.
So that's why I'm like, what am I going to ask him that Art Spiegelman, I just feel intimidated. But I think he's a possible get for the show.
I think it's a very possible get for the show. You've got plenty of great folks on here. I have faith in you, Dan.
I don't want to have to play the ethnic card and play my Palestinian card. I'm avoiding that, but I will play it. It's my trump card. I'll always hold it. I'll hold my identity politics card close to my heart.
Do what you got to do, Dan. Get Joe Sacco on.
Yeah, I think it would be a fun conversation. I think we could talk about a lot of stuff that maybe he doesn't usually talk about. This is looking so beautiful. This is so close. This is amazing.
Under this thing, you're going to be good to go.
I'm so glad you showed me these techniques, Ryan, because I think this is something even I could do. I thought like there's no way I could do it, but maybe I'm tempted to try it just so I can get into Photoshop and try all those tricks that you just.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I'm so glad you convinced me to do this, because now this is going to be archived and I can say, hey, check this out. This is how to make these things.
This is classic Ryan Claytor. Like, do a little something. There's an agenda. You think he's the artist. He's following his capricious nature, his whim, his everywhere. There's a bottom line agenda with Ryan. Like, he's like, I'm gonna do this Dan Shaheen thing, but I'm gonna learn something.
We gotta learn you something. I mean, that's half the fun, right?
I mean, that's all I've done on this channel. I learn every episode.
So there you go. That's a mirror drawing from start to finish.
Let me full screen that puppy dog.
I had no idea what was going to come out at the beginning of this, but man, am I psyched about what's in front of us right now. Like, and on top of it, I feel like I get an entire drawing out of doing 25% of the work.
A quarter of the work.
Right.
digital finishes and everything else make it amazing, dude. Ryan, what a cool technique, fun. I'm glad you did it. I know I hate to call you out the way I just did, but like I know that you wouldn't have done this. The reason for this book wasn't because you love the mirror drawings so much. I mean, that's part of it, right? But it was everything that you learned to produce the amazing artifact that's going to come out of this thing.
I mean, honestly, I've started thinking more about reasons for arting for me, and I make art in all sorts of different ways, from comics to watches to neon to pancakes to mirror drawings. It's as you said, a little all over the place, but ultimately for me, I think it comes down to this custom puzzle making. Like, I'm not a big fan of like grabbing an off the shelf puzzle and putting it together, or like doing something prescriptive, like going to those paint night classes or things like that. I have a really hard time with that sort of stuff. But if it's a puzzle that hasn't been solved yet, like how do you make a custom Godzilla neon sign? How do you make a watch that has narrative to it? How do you make mirror drawings that don't always look like the same number of axes? Like, we've got this 4-axis thing going on here, but how do you confuse that a little bit? How do you blur those lines? Like, can you put a face front view on there and have it replicate so that something's only available twice instead of 4 times? Or can you make something equally 1.5 times so that it duplicates around to 6 times? And like, my head just started going to these places after doing these mirror drawings for a while. And again, doing them is relaxing, but I also found my mind really focusing on them after a while and trying to figure out different ways to push this odd little meditative practice in ways that I did not expect to happen. So anyway, there's a little bit about mirror drawings.
Cool. I'm super glad you did. Matt C wonders, Dan, where did that beard come from? My mother gave it to me. Ryan, I think this is great. So what's this was the palette cleanser before the next big so what's the next one that's
coming up next is that 20 years of Elephant Eater Comics art book
yes.
I was telling you about. And I've already got like, I can't remember how much, like 120, 150 pages in it so far. And I'm not sure where it's going to end. I'm just continuing to produce it until I am satisfied. But I'm projecting that Kickstarter will take place mid to late 2023. And I hope to fulfill those orders in early 2024 or so, because 2024 is the 20th anniversary of me doing comics. So my 15th anniversary blew past me without me even knowing it, because I was on tour for Coin Op Carnival. And then at the end of the year, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's done. So, it was a good way to celebrate, but I kind of forgot about that milestone. So at the time I told myself, all right, let's figure out something to celebrate 20 years. And so that's going to be.
In your heart of heart, with all these varied interests and stuff, is it really comics the thing you want? You consider yourself a cartoonist at heart?
Without a doubt. Yes.
Yeah. That's why you work so well on this show, Ryan. It's perfect.
I think that informs everything else, because comics is such a varied medium. It's illustration, but it's graphic design, it's storytelling, it's writing, it's publishing, it's there's so many hats you wear as a cartoonist that inform so many different areas of life, and from what I've found anyway.
Yeah, well, someday I'm going to keep working slowly. Maybe someday I'm going to convince you to work with me on that lock picking comic that the world deserves, Ryan.
I would read that comic.
Yeah, I know. What I will do then is I might have to just do it Ryan Claytor style to learn how to do these things. Can I rely on you for some technical advice at least?
I'd be happy to be a consultant for you, Dan. I don't think I can illustrate it, but I would be happy to help.
Yeah. I got this idea. I got this crazy idea. I want to try doing like be the 3D Gerhard for somebody, right? And try to do like I want to figure out. I just really want to figure out the steps needed behind that of how to like make a 3D set, shoot essentially like 3D fumetti, and then turn that into a real comic book page. That's high on my list of like fun projects.
Yeah, you know, there's already a ton of folks, myself included, who will kind of use a hybrid method of that. I'm not comparing myself to Gerhard by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have some rudimentary SketchUp skills, and so interior that I need to do, or even some exterior buildings, you know, pull those up in SketchUp real quickly, and then use those as like a foundation for drawing on top of and inking on top of. Because I mean, for me, if my hand's not inking it, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't look right. It looks out of place, you know, a little too perfect. And so I'll come up with a ton of Blender stuff, and then if you are willing,
there's a lot of guys doing that. Yeah, like Hans Rickheit, who's been on this show, and one of my favorite artists, Chris Weston. They do a lot of 3D modeling, and then use that, and then do 2D renderings on top of it to like just get the form right and the angles and maybe the shadows and stuff right, and then the end result is something exquisite, like you wouldn't know. Right. It doesn't look like Batman 3D or Iron Man Crash or any of those other crappy early digital comics. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, or at worst a photo comic.
Yeah, we don't like, for some reason, some of those can work, but it's hard. It's hard to pull off, and that's why I also think it's going to be really hard for me to pull off. But I think it sounds like a fun challenge. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've done my share of photo comics in my past too, but there's always this like weird disconnect, right? Like somehow we can connect better with illustrations than we can with photographs.
I think McLeod spelled it out really well, right?
Yeah. You know, having a little less detail allows you to put yourself into those characters. Yeah.
That's what I was talking about lately, why I think Spider-Man, one of the reasons Spider-Man was so successful out of the gate, like fully formed as a character, Spider-Man, Superman and Batman took decades to evolve into what we know them as, whereas like Spider-Man was out the gate. And like a couple things, one, he was young, so they made the sidekick, who would normally be the sidekick for reader identification, like, let's make him the superhero. Let's make him poor and dorky and have glasses and all perfect stuff. But then let's put him in a costume that hides every single thing about him and gives him gigantic eyes. Like, it's that combination really aids in reader self-identification. And I think there's a huge part of why Spider-Man is what he is. What it is.
Yeah. Big time. Well, hey, Dan, thank you so much for having me on for a 3P. I cannot thank you enough. And if viewers are interested, I'd love for you to go check out mirrordrawings.com. It's running right now. I think it's got about 12 days left. So sort of coming down the home stretch here. We're about in the middle of the campaign. I ran a shorter one this time, but.
God, sorry. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I just interrupted Ryan. Ryan, please come back. I'm really sorry, guys. I was trying to remove the screen share part and it removed him too. So really sorry for that, Ryan, but I promise you, I will have Ryan back. If he doesn't rejoin this call right now, here he is. I'm so sorry, Ryan. I'm sorry. I was trying to just pull your screen share thing off, and I'm like, oh, I can do this without
I know what was going on. I was starting to get salesy, and you're like, get out of here, Claytor. We've heard your pitch already.
We love that.
I was
sorry. Continue what you were saying, and then I got one more salesy thing for you to do.
Okay. So yeah, as far as the campaign goes, we're about the halfway point, and as I said at the start of this show, the book is now bigger and better than I even proposed it to be, at the same price of entry. So instead of 48 pages, you're getting an 80-page hardback cover book. It's also going to have that built-in ribbon bookmark, the spot foil stamping on the cover, upgraded paper stock, and free US shipping included on all these different tiers. So in addition to the book itself, which I'm super excited about, there's some upper level tiers. Like just the next one up includes a couple of prints, and one of them was on the thumbnail for this episode, and I just wanted to showcase this. They came out so amazing.
Oh,
I can't believe these things. They look incredible in person. I feel like I can never do them justice, but they are a raised gold foil print, and then they're signed and numbered in metallic gold ink. Ooh, Dan Shaheen, I can't wait to send you one of these.
Touch of class. That's the kind of item that deserves to be on our $1 Million Mailbox show.
Hey,
I was hoping, Ryan.
See if you can get any better photography than I was able to.
Okay. Well, maybe you could give me, you'd be willing to help me out and give us a little plug and tell people where they could send their comics.
Hey, this is your old pal Ryan Claytor on Comic Book News with Dan Shaheen. And if you haven't heard, you should send Dan your mail, your comics mail that you've created to the $1 Million Mailbox, P.O. Box 1163 in lovely Arcata, California, 95518. Don't forget to send it to him. He will chat about it with his good pal, Larry Young. Hey, Larry, don't forget to get a game of 8-Ball Deluxe in there for me. And tell everybody on the $1 Million Comics Cam that I say hello.
Oh, man, that was fantastic. Thank you, Ryan. Ryan, we'll see you next time. I'm going to get out of here. I got to play the closing credits. Stick around if you got a second. If you don't, I know how it goes. You're a busy guy. I see you've got an agenda and a schedule and everything going on. So I hope you'll come back again and again and again.
I'd love to. Thanks for having me on this time, Dan.
Thanks, buddy. Anytime. For Ryan. Ryan's one of those guys. He's like one of the OGs. And he supported the show from the very beginning. He actually like watches it, sends me comments about things that he saw and stuff. That is like, it touches me in a place that's like, it's deep. So guys out there, what also touches me is when you subscribe, when you like, and when you comment on these videos, all of that stuff. And especially if you share videos, like if you see something on one of these videos and you want to share a clip or share this with those message boards or whatever you guys are into, you kids today, do that. That really helps the show. We super appreciate it. So come back next time, next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Earth Pacific time. I'll be back with Serious Star Trek. Larry Young and Johnny Price, PhD, will look at everything sci-fi in the sci-fi universe. And then the following Thursday, I'll be back probably with this show. Yeah, we'll do another $1 Million Mailbox for sure. I've got stuff in the mailbox ready to go. I'll bring in Larry and maybe another guest host. So check out these closing credits. I got a little cameo at the end of that thing that you want to stick around for, and then we will see you next time.
Saw that you can make a living out of third, you'll hear no complaints anymore.
And you created X-Force?
Mm-hmm.
So what is this drawing of?
This is the Spike Man.
And what's this right here?
This is the camera on top of your head that will record the wrongdoings of others.
So Rob, have you had any formal art training?
No, just a lot of imagination, I think. Wait so I say it and then look down, or just open it and say it.
Fly button?